Hello everyone and welcome to a very special edition of the Women's Soccer Show. And as ever, I am Allie and I've got a very special co-host this week because our favourite, and she's allowed me to call her this, wanker Sara, has disappeared off to a festival this weekend. I think it's Memorial Weekend over in the States, and has decided to abandon us. So it is the Brits taking over the Asylum. Please welcome back our favourite Man United fan, Amy.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it. Happy to be back. Excited to talk about the WSL because what a weekend of football that was for us.
Exactly. So the Brits are taking over. It's all WSL this week. However, we do want to touch on a subject that hit over in Holland, which was absolutely outrageous. You may have seen some of our tweets about it, but Ajax women won their league this year, which is an outstanding achievement. However, because their men's team did so poorly in their league, any sort of celebration has been cancelled by request of the fan club and has been agreed by the mayor of Amsterdam that yes, no celebration should take place for the women.
What an absolute joke. That's just embarrassing for Ajax as a football club. You know, they pride themselves on being one of the best football clubs in the world in terms of technique and building from grassroots. And obviously their women's club has done really well this season, winning the league. And they're producing some great players as well. And they're basically saying, well, the women's game their success is based on the men's success only, by completely ignoring the women's league, the women's team winning the league this season, because the men have done so poorly. They don't go hand in hand. They're completely separate. And the women should be rewarded and celebrated for their achievements. And there's nothing to do with the men's team at the end of the day, because nobody in the men's side is affiliated with the women's side. So I don't understand why the supporters are so upset. If you don't want to go to the women's parade, don't go to the women's parade. Yeah, it's very disappointing on all aspects. And even the mayor sort of agreeing with it is also really poor.
Shame on you, Ajax. Shame on you. But let's talk about something a bit more delightful. And let's talk about the weekend of football in the WSL, because what a weekend it was. It was the final day of the season, and so much was left undecided by this final day. You know, there was a possibility that anybody could have been relegated out of the three candidates, even though it was looking more likely to be Reading. It still was undecided who was going to get first place and win the title. I'm excited to talk about it. I know as one of the possible contenders, you are a Man United fan. So what was your feelings going into this weekend?
I think any realistic Man United fan would find it hard to see Reading getting anything off of Chelsea. So I did obviously want Manchester United to push it to the last day. Overall, as a season, their best finish ever as a club. Something to be proud of. And as a fan, something to be proud of. Because we've fallen short the last couple of years of Champions League football. And it was important to get Champions League football for many reasons. Obviously, pushing on next season will help us with financial gains from the Champions League, and also for player retention. The players want to stay. They want to play in the Champions League, the big players.
I was going to say, that's huge.
Yeah, massive to retaining those players. You know, your Mary Earpses, your Russos, players of that caliber, Batley to some extent. I don't know we'll talk about that a little bit later. So yeah, going into the final day, didn't hold much expectation for Reading to do us a favour, but very proud of the season they've had and just excited to see if we could get the last win for the fans who travelled to Prenton Park. Man United sold out their allocation, as they have been doing throughout the season. The women's team fans have been fantastic. Could have asked more from them.
I think, to be honest, you've even exceeded expectations because, yes, Champions League was what you wanted, but I think a lot of people thought, you might scrape that third place. But the fact you guys, not only took it to the final day and have finished comfortably second, I think is just a massive achievement for you guys in your short history.
Yeah, Mark Skinner mentioned it, that, giving us credit, and I think we have been given credit throughout the season, but giving us credit for that second place finish and just doing it so comprehensively against the two bigger teams, we could argue bigger teams in City and Arsenal, because they're more experienced and have more experience at getting into the Champions League and competing at the top. But yeah, Manchester United have done supremely well to finish second. And I think that the game that turned it for them was Arsenal away, I would say.
Yes, I would say so too. That was an insane game. That was our game of the week, much to Sarah's annoyance, because it was just such a comprehensive win of just true Grit. But let's talk about Arsenal, and as we're talking about away allocations, because it was Arsenal versus Aston Villa on the final game, and obviously very high profile tweet that Aston Villa were only given a 50-seat allocation for an away end, which a lot of blame has been blamed on Arsenal, but I'm going to blame Villa because it's down to the away club to ask for an allocation. It's not automatically given because there's no point in giving a 2,000 allocation when, for example, I went to West Ham Leicester last week and there was about 10 West Ham fans. So there was no point in Leicester giving us anything, and we were just dotted around and we all sat sort of nearish and stuff like that. So it's done that, but huge blow for Arsenal in the fact that it was a 2-0 loss in the final game. Do we think that's representative of Arsenal and Villa's season?
I do, actually. I mean, I think Arsenal have done really, really well, considering the amount of injuries they've had this year, to even, compete for the Champions League, coming into the final sort of third fixtures, and, to keep their Champions League hopes alive with the semi-final. But Aston Villa have been phenomenal. I think Carla Ward has done a fantastic job there. She's obviously a very good player manager, so she knows how to manage her players, managing egos. I don't think Rachel Daly is somebody who has a huge ego, to be honest. I think she's somebody who's driven. If you can provide her with the opportunities to score, she will. And that's what Aston Villa have done really well this season, bringing in Kirsty Hanson. We don't know where she's going to end up, if she's going to go back to Man United. Obviously, she's on loan. And I think, obviously, the additions of Jordan Nobbs, that's a huge addition. And also Staniforth was a big addition for them too. So, Villa, great, fantastic. 2-0 away at Arsenal. Going back on the allocations, they're going to be using Boreham Wood less and less
they have
next season. Yeah, Arsenal do have to, because if you're getting sellout crowds for Champions League games, you have to build on that momentum. And I think Arsenal's the club in the women's game that really, really does back their women's team to the fullest, and along with Chelsea as well. So I think that exciting times for Arsenal next season. And Villa, if you want more tickets, that's your fault.
Yeah, I think Arsenal have actually come out and said they're guaranteeing their women's team at least 5 home games at the Emirates. So we don't know if it's going to be just Champions League games or if it's going to be, just the big rivalries, but at least they're guaranteeing 5 games, which I think is huge. For a lesser exciting match is Brighton versus Leicester. Ended up being 1-0 Leicester, but we have to talk about Leicester for a moment because what a great escape. They went in at Christmas with no points and a huge goal differential. And not only that, they've managed to do the great escape again for the second year running, but with such a flair and such an aplomb. So we have to give credit to where's credit's due with Leicester. What do you think their turning point was? Was it Willie Kirk? Is it bringing in a more experienced goalkeeper? Is it a mixture of all elements?
Yeah, Willie Kirk turned it around. Completely average at Everton, but has probably found his sweet spot at Leicester. And the goalkeeper, I think the goalkeeper is one of the performers of the season in the WSL. Without Mary Earps getting the Golden Glove, I think that Leicester's goalkeeper would have been in with a shout of some sort of awards. I don't know what we would give her, but because Leicester conceded so many goals, right? So she wasn't in contention for that. But I just remember save after save after save. Unbelievable, keeping them in contention in games. I could see Leicester's goalkeeper, though, also being snapped up by somebody like an Arsenal. Why wouldn't Arsenal go in? So, I think that a combination of Willie Kirk doing a great job tactically, setting them up, making them more difficult to beat, and also Leicester winning the games that were winnable for them.
Yeah.
That's important, right? Your battles against the bottom 3, bottom 4, it was bottom 6 for a long time, right? There were so many teams in contention for going down. So, I think Leicester, round of applause for one of the biggest, greatest escapes in history in women's football, coming from the bottom of the league, no points at Christmas is unbelievable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Brighton obviously got rid of long-term manager Hope Powell. They had their German manager for a very brief amount of time, and he didn't work out. And so they've now got themselves a new manager. That hopefully is a bright start for Brighton. If they can keep on with their new manager, because she seems to be getting the best out of them, but who knows?
Yeah, no, I think they have to keep her. She's done a great job when she's come in, because Brighton, again, were one of those teams in flux, just kind of hanging in there. You didn't know if they were going to go down or not, because they were just so inconsistent. They would get beaten 7-8-0 one week and then kind of come in and be a little bit more difficult to beat. But I think they have to hold on to their their key players, Robinson is someone who's going to be hard to keep, right?
Yes. Is it going to be another Maya Le Tissier situation?
Well, I think so, because I can't see her staying at Brighton. She's going to want to kick on, and she's going to want the same thing, but all the top players want to win things, play in the Champions League, and then also play for England. So we've seen her with some appearances, some substitute appearances for England. And I think that someone of her talent, who has raw pace, can beat people in the wide areas, can put in a cross, has to go somewhere. And where that is, I don't know. It might not even be in the WSL, it might be abroad. Who knows? But she's still young, so I would say that she probably want to stick with the WSL for at least a few more seasons before she looks to go somewhere, maybe abroad or not abroad.
A fun one for you. Liverpool Man United at Prenton. We have said a lot about it, but it wasn't the firework game I think a lot of fans were expecting. But the goal did make up for it, I have to say. It was a spectacular goal for you guys. It was a 1-0 win for Man United.
Yeah, Lucia Garcia again coming in big with the winner for us, as she did last week against City. Nice finish. She kind of whiffed at the first ball, but the way she set the ball up, where she flicked it back onto her left foot, was nice. I thought Man United kind of huffed and puffed, and that's credit to Liverpool, really, because Liverpool well organised, they set up well, and as they have been for the majority of this season, I would say they've been difficult to play against. They beat Chelsea's first game of the season. That's testament to them and Matt Beard. And I think that the forwards gave us some problems at times. Like Van der Sanden, again, stretched us, didn't put in necessarily great balls. Of the one that went in that was kind of in between the keeper and their attackers, and neither here nor there. I thought Maya Le Tissier did well at times as well. I think she's been probably United's Young Player of the Year. Let's go back to Liverpool, though, because I do want to talk. I think that the one outstanding performer for Liverpool was Casey Stengel.
Yes, we have to talk about Stengel.
Often I've been quite critical of Stengel, especially when she played in the NWSL. I didn't think she was a fantastic player, but yesterday she was real good, and she's been really good in the WSL this year. And I think she's found her home here at Liverpool, and she made it hard. She made it really hard for Man United. She ran the channel as well. She holds the ball up so well. I don't think she gets a lot of credit as well, because she does have pace. But she burned Maya Le Tissier a couple of times, and I just think that she's been really key for Liverpool, because you've seen how many goals she scored and how much she can do for the squad. So props to her. Props to Casey Stengel.
Well, yeah, because she was their top scorer to get them back into the WSL last season when they were in the Championship. And then she's come back firing. And again, she's not a name not on everybody's lips. I think maybe it's because of Liverpool's position in the table that people aren't really thinking about it. But again, it's a key player, I think, for Liverpool to make sure they hang on to help them kick on. But like I said, we will talk about players. I do want to bring up one slight player of yours before we move on, which was the surprising one of the best players for me for you guys, which is Rach Williams. Because I know there was a lot, and I mentioned it last week, there was a lot of what the hell is Mark Skinner thinking, bringing on Rach Williams, who, let's be honest, is going towards the end of her career now. She's had a long career with Birmingham and Chelsea, and was at Tottenham for a spell and things like that, and they didn't know what he was thinking, but she's been fantastic for you guys. Is that like off the bench burst of energy and experience?
Yeah, she has, and she's scored crucial goals at times when we've needed her to. She's kept us in the title race with some of those goals and progressed us in the FA Cup. So Rachel Williams has been a really good addition, like smart player, but also will put herself about. And sometimes you need that in football, where you're going to put in a challenge, you're going to ruffle some feathers, get the crowd back on side, get them involved. Those types of things she does really well. And I think that she's done better than Martha Thomas, I would say. Man United have made a lot of signings, and we haven't seen a lot of them, which is also disappointing, right? If you're going to make signings, why are we making signings and not giving them any opportunities?
Briefly go over. So we've got Man City versus Everton. It was 3-2 City. It was 3-0 for a really long time, and then Everton managed to get 2 goals in the last 20 minutes, which, to be honest, I think sums up Man City's season, which is start off strong and then fail towards the final hurdle.
Yeah, City have been disappointing by their own standards this season. I think that financially they haven't been backed at all like they usually are. And You take Weir and Kira Walsh out of the centre of the park, and what are you really left with there? I mean, Chloe Kelly's had a fantastic season. I think she's been there. I think her and Bunny Shaw obviously have been their two outstanding players. I think it gave Laura Coombs a chance also to shine in the middle of the pitch. She's obviously not at a prime anymore in terms of age. She's getting on, but she's done well to fill those voids. And Hemp, obviously, we know what Hemp and Kelly can bring with their pace, their directness, their ability to put the ball in the box and score goals. So that for Manchester City was like the bright spots this season. They've got an aging backline as well when you look at it with Houghton, Greenwood. So I think if you're a Man City fan, you'll be very disappointed with the lack of investment in the team, losing your key players, your Bronze, your Walsh, your Weir. Weir was a big loss. She's done phenomenal at Real Madrid.
Yes, that is true. And very briefly on Everton, to be honest, they've had a very unremarkable season. They had a very slow start. They've won some winnable games for them, managed to keep themselves up, but it's not been their greatest. And they continue to be in freefall because they were at one time a team that was challenging, getting up there for, these Champions League spots, and now they are a consistently ranked middle of the table team. So the big game really was Reading versus Chelsea, because both teams had something to gain by a win. Reading to stay up and Chelsea obviously to win the title. Reading played the Chelsea, I have to say, really well, but then when the first goal went in, that was it.
You could kind of see it coming though. I don't know how long Reading thought they were going to sort of hold out against Chelsea without Chelsea scoring, because that Chelsea are going to create opportunities. They're going to continue to create opportunities with the wide players that they have, the quality. Guru Ryan, outstanding player, and Sam Kerr is always going to bag you goals. So Reading were okay. Yeah, they defended well for the first 20 minutes, we would say, and then bang, Kerr scores, gets across a defender. Yeah, gets across a defender. I mean, I was watching this simultaneously with the Man United game. So obviously once Chelsea scored, I was like, all right, well, that's it then, kind of. So she got across the front of the defender, bang, scores, great Sam Kerr goal, right? At 1-0, you're kind of just still thinking, okay, Reading could get back into it's only 1-0. And they did have a chance. They had a great chance of a header, which they should have scored. And then comes the mistake. Absolutely horrendous mistake by Reading at the back. It was a shin touch. She's facing a goal, obviously. She's going backwards. She's under a little bit of pressure from Guru Ryan. I wouldn't say a ton of pressure. And
rookie error.
Yeah, total rookie error. Shins it towards the goal and just kind of sets it up for Guru Ryan, who slots it in. She's not going to miss from there, is she?
Yeah, and I will honestly say that compared to some of the performances Chelsea have given recently, to only come away with a 3-0 loss, I will say that is quite prideful for Reading, because we've seen that their relegation partners have come out with I think it's 6-7-0 for Leicester, things like that. But it is a shame that they won't be in the WSL this season. I do think it is coming down to investment. It's very clear to me that Reading don't care about their women's team, because their men's team are not doing great. So all resources, all funding is going to try and keep them afloat. And, they had a mass exodus last season. They didn't really replace like for like. Even the signings they had were just injury prone. I know Brooke Hendricks signed at the beginning of the season, hasn't really made many appearances because of an ongoing shin problem. And it's just, I think that was their problem, is there's no investment from their parent club.
Yeah, disappointing for Reading fans and sad for all of us as well to see that happen.
And then to the final game of the weekend, which obviously near and dear to my heart, was West Ham versus Spurs, which was the only draw of the day, which was 2-2. To be honest, I don't remember much of the game because I was so emotional about one of our players leaving. But I do think it was probably one of the better performances that West Ham put up. It's just Beth England is Beth England.
Beth England doing Beth England things. It shows when you get a run of starts for a team that you can do good things up front, which is, she's doing sort of the similar things to Rachel Daly. She's really pulled Spurs out of the relegation contention single-handedly, I would say, over there at Tottenham. She's scoring goals for fun, 2 goals against West Ham this weekend. I can't see her not being selected for the World Cup.
No, and I would be super shocked if she's not in that 23-person squad, to be honest, because she is having the season of her life. I think leaving Chelsea was probably the best decision she could have made.
I would love to see Tottenham really invest in their women's team, because with Beth England, you have a proven goal scorer. And you've played some games now at the Tottenham Stadium, the new one, and it is an unbelievable stadium. But we've seen that they really aren't getting the crowd and the attendance there. And I don't think that having a women's game after your final men's game of the season was the best thing to do, considering how poor Tottenham men have been. Nobody wanted to stay for that. I mean, obviously the diehard women's fans stayed, but they didn't even want to stay for the men's celebration at the end, which I use the term celebration loosely, because it wasn't a celebration at all. It was a poor season by the men. But we'll go back to the women. And I think that if they invest in their women's team, that they could potentially move up the table and be an Aston Villa next season. But I don't know that they're going to do that, because Daniel Levy is such a poor chairman in many respects. They have this great stadia. They have, the fan base. They have everything there at Tottenham, except for investment in the team itself and getting it right on the pitch. And, you know a lot more about West Ham than I do, going to pretty much every single game this season, home and away. So
I was going to say, speaking of mediocre teams that sit just above the relegation zone,
I think it's been nice to West Ham. The last third of the season has been absolutely abysmal. There was times when you looked good at the beginning of the season and could compete, and then it was just like this huge drop-off in intensity. And maybe, that West Ham had seen that they were safe, and they were just, I don't know. It was very, very anticlimactic.
That was it, literally. For regular listeners will know, me and Sarah did our half-year review just after Christmas about teams, and we'll get onto them for the year, but our surprise team at that time was West Ham, because they were 5th. They'd come off this great winning streak. Their last game before Christmas was beating Tottenham at home, away at Tottenham, 2-0, looking a really strong side. And then they just slipped, and that was their last win in the league until we beat Leicester last week, which, is absolutely shocking. And there was definitely something going on behind closed doors that you as a fan don't see, because they look so disjointed. They just weren't playing together. And now it's time to go around the world, starting off in Spain. Copa del Reina happened this weekend. Atletico Madrid took the title in the most dramatic of fashions in the Madrid derby. Real had held them to a 2-0 lead until the 88th minute, when Atletico hit back with 2 goals, one of which was in the 95th minute to take it to penalties. Atletico then held Real to a 3-1 win on penalties. In Germany have new champions in Bayern Munich, who won their final game with an emphatic 11-1. Wolfsburg take second place in that league, and Frankfurt take third. Scotland, whilst the league is over, we had the Scottish Cup this weekend, and Celtic are the new champions. 2 very quick goals within 3 minutes within the second half sealed it for the Hoops. Commiserations to Rangers. And then finally, in France, the Champions League spots have been decided. Obviously, we know that Lyon were champions, PSG came in second, but it's Paris FC who take that third and final spot for Champions League.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Some clubs have already announced who will not be coming back next season in order to give fans a chance to say goodbye, which I do think is a nicer way to do it. Getting the information that's going to come out afterwards, you're not knowing that that's the last chance you might have seen your favourite player play, and also it ends lots of speculation, because we're going to start with your team first in Man United, because there's a lot of speculation about who you're going to have next season. Specifically, a very specific Spanish player who may be going back to Catalonia.
Yeah, Anna Batley, obviously, I think she's been a standout player of the season for Man United. I know Earps is going to get her dues, and that's totally fair. And I think Mo Letitia is Young Player of the Year for us. But Anna Batley creates so many chances for us down the right side, and defensively absolutely sound. I remember I went to watch when I watched England-Spain in the Euros in the quarterfinal. I thought that Batley just absolutely tied up, whether it was Beth Mead or Hemp on that side of the pitch. There was just no success down the touchline because of her ability to defend the ball. I will be, real sad if she leaves, because there's also reports come out today that there's potential that she stays at Man United because she wanted Champions League football, and now she's got Champions League football. So, but other clubs such as Barcelona and Lyon are offering her more money. Now, I don't know if money's the motivation for her or not. Like, she might be comfortable in Manchester, and she seems, the fans obviously love her, and why wouldn't you? So there's still hope that she'll stay. And if she goes back to Barcelona, the interesting thing there is that she's going to be directly competing with Lucy Bronze for the right back slot. So where does that leave Lucy Bronze? I don't think Anna Batley wants to go to Barcelona and sit on the bench. That's why she came to Man United in the first place. So she wasn't a bench player, because she started her career at Barcelona. Yeah, it'd be interesting, but I hope Man United can figure it out and offer her what she wants in terms of the contract moving forward. And I've said this before, but I think she's more important than Russo. And I do love Russo as well.
Yeah, we talked about it on News and 10 last week. The one I would say out of all of your negotiations that you've got, I will say will definitely stay, is probably Mary Earps, because she is going to be guaranteed Champions League football, because she is your number one goalkeeper. And it's not like when she played at Wolfsburg, when she was on the bench for all of the Champions League, though I do think that's what changed her, having that experience at Wolfsburg. So to actually go out and play what she wants to do, I think it'd be crazy for Mary Earps to not, because it would be basically starting again, because she's not going to go to Chelsea. She's not going to go to Arsenal. No,
and I just before we started recording, Mary Earps' extension has been triggered by Man United to 2024. Excellent. So yeah, the option has been extended, which is good news. Why wouldn't they have extended it? I don't know. But they have. So good news on that. And then there's a bunch of other players that are on 1-year options. Boarisa is one of them, and I think they need to trigger hers too, because I like Boarisa. She brings something different as well to the team when she plays. She's creative, she scores goals, and I think we need that depth in the centre of the pitch. We have obviously Ladd, Selim, Toon, but one of them gets injured. Who are we looking at to bring in there, right? So I think that Boarisa should also be triggered, but we'll see.
So let's talk about what confirmed departures. We'll talk about Liverpool, because we said about keeping teams together. To be honest, there's not many shock departures, apart from maybe Megan Campbell. It's Carla Humphrey, Rhiannon Roberts, Ash Hodgson, who, to be fair, has been at Liverpool for 14 years. She's been at loan at Birmingham this season, but she has spent all of her youth career at Liverpool. Leanne Robe, and Charlotte Clark, and of course Megan Campbell. So do we think that's going to make a massive difference to Liverpool next season?
Probably not. And I would guess that Liverpool are going to strengthen their squad based on the season that they've been able to have, with Matt Beard finishing comfortably in the middle half of the table. Liverpool's a huge football club, and they used to invest a lot in their women's team. And I hope that they go back to doing that. There has been some signs of that this season. So there's hope on the horizon. And I think that if they keep the core of their group together, they keep their young players, they could build on this success. And not, we don't want to take a backward step like Reading did. But I think that Liverpool's a totally different football team, and I hope that they continue to invest.
Yeah, I think, there's, like I said, there were names that weren't really getting on. I know Robe was getting a bit more game time towards the end of the season. I do think, Megan Campbell's one that's a shock for me. But again, it's another player that I don't like to bring age in, but football is one of those careers where you do have an early retirement age. It's just the way it is. And she is probably towards, we're seeing these players now starting these football schools and coaching, and Megan Campbell started to do that. Can she have another season in the Championship club? Probably. I could see her going to a Birmingham, you know, or back to a Birmingham or something like that. But they are starting to build out. So what is it that Liverpool need, do you think, to like kick on? Is it another goal scorer that's not Stengel, or what is it that they were lacking?
I think they need someone creative in the middle of the pitch. I also think that Van der Sonnen is okay as a player. Maybe some more quality out wide would be helpful for them. And yeah, probably a second striker who's going to score you some goals. Look at Aston Villa. They brought in Daly and it was, amazing for them. And Tottenham have got England. And if she wasn't at Tottenham, that would be like a good signing for Liverpool, because she's already been at Liverpool on loan. So she knows the culture there as well, and she knows the club. Yeah, I think that they're a solid group. I think they can really kick on. I don't think that they can be championship contenders, but they can make it hard for teams, and we've seen that.
Yes, they can be that. Actually, let's talk about Villa quickly, because again, they've released their list, and again, it's players that I don't see it's going to make a big difference to Villa. It's players that didn't get much. So it's Emily Gelnick, Chantel Boyer, Rusha Littlejohn, Tash Harding, and Remy Allen. Remy Allen's been out pretty much all season with an ACL injury. Not again. Tash Harding's been out injured, so they've not really been that key in Villa's campaign. Is there much Villa need to strengthen on? Because they seem to have covered all bases. They've got a good goalkeeper in Hampton. They've got quite a good defensive line. Obviously, they've got the striker in Daly, and Darley will get a few in now and then. So is it literally just, trimming not unnecessary players, but they weren't even contributing on the bench?
Well, I think that if Hansen goes back to United, that's a loss for them, because that you lose that direct pace on the left, and they would need to bring in somebody to replace her there on the left-hand side. I think just squad depth at Villa is necessary, right? Good squad rotational players you can bring in off the bench to change games. We saw in the FA Cup game against Chelsea where they were really unfortunate, like they lost 1-0. But that's the type of game where if you want to push on and win a trophy, you need the squad depth, right? Somebody to come in and score a goal, change the game for you, be a bit more direct. But I think they were genuinely unlucky in that game as well. Yeah. But I think that they're going to, because they exceeded expectations this season, there's going to be a little bit of pressure on them next season to obviously do as well, if not better than what they did this year. So I'll be interested to see how they manage that expectation and what sort of players they look to bring in to strengthen as a squad.
Now, the big one for me is Brighton, because they've given their list. Now, there's a few that have been on the out, but there's a couple that I was very surprised about. So the ones that go with are Victoria Williams, Kaylee Green, Megan Connolly, Danielle Carter, and Megan Walsh. Now, Victoria Williams I could see coming. She hadn't been playing. She'd been very much a bench player. But I do think Megan Walsh had an off season, but it is surprising to me that they are getting rid.
Yeah, and I'm also a little bit surprised about Danielle Carter, but she has been coming off the bench, and she's one of those, but I think she's more of a bench player. But she's a good bench player to have, because she does bring a direct approach. Yeah, and she scores goals. She's direct, she scores goals and causes defenders problems. So again, I don't know if this is tied down to a wage bill, something financial that they need to trim, but some weird decisions at Brighton. Where are they going? What's their direction? I am hopeful for them, because new managers come in and done fantastic. So hopefully they can give her what she needs to build this squad.
That's the problem for me, is whereas with Villa, I can see what they were doing with the players that they've said goodbye to. I don't understand what Brighton are doing. And I'm hoping it becomes clearer, but it's just at the moment, it feels like another mass exodus, which is what caused their problems this season.
Yeah. And I think that I don't like to talk too much about men's football, but if they could find a winning formulas the men's team have, and bringing in players of potential and making them the team that they are, that Brighton men have this really great transfer policy and how they bring in players, and I'd love for that to transfer over to the women's team, bring that same technical, tactical, statistical analysis to their game and bring in those players, because that's a good way to also trim your wage bill if that's what you're looking to do.
So those are the only three clubs that I know so far that at the time of recording that have released their full list of players that have been let go. So we've now got a couple of players that were announced beforehand. The big one for that has to be for Chelsea, and that's Harder and Eriksen, with them both going. Obviously, the rumour is that they're going over to Bayern, which would not surprise me at all. But yeah, I mean, Eriksen captain for like the last 6 years at Chelsea. It's a huge loss for them. Have those two players going?
I think Eriksen, been consistent, captain, performer, at the back, stalwart. She's class. She's class on and off the pitch. She brings a mentality to Chelsea. She buys into Emma Hayes' philosophies, and she's a winner. She wants to win. And to not win the Champions League this season has got to be bitterly disappointing for her. I think that was what the aim was. Obviously, it's always been Emma Hayes' aim is to win the Champions League at Chelsea. And I think that she'll be disappointed that she's not gone out as a Champions League winner at Chelsea. But it just proves how hard it is to win the Champions League. Obviously, they've done really well to win the WSL, the FA Cup. If they'd completed the domestic and European treble, that would have been unheard of. No, I don't, that's just so difficult to do. So losing Eriksen is a big loss. And obviously, Harder is a massive game changer. When she came on in the FA Cup final, she changed the game. And she has the ability to do that because she's world class. Do I think that Chelsea will suffer from losing them? No. I don't, because Chelsea is a machine, right? They're just going to bring in two people who are younger, fresher, exciting, and build with those players. So, there's already talk of Macario. That's one. She's just come back off an ACL tear. So how good she's going to be quickly, get up to speed, I don't know. But, they could just pretty much pick and choose who they want because people want to go to Chelsea because, one, the investment, and two, Emma Hayes. So I think Emma Hayes stays because she didn't achieve what she wanted to. So I think she's going to stay, would be my prediction.
Because she wants that Champions League.
She does, and she's going to get it whether it kills her or not. She's just very determined to do this. So yeah, I don't think Chelsea are quite there yet, though. They're just missing something. They're missing something to get them over that final hurdle.
Over to the Toffees now. And for me, as I said before, the shocking one for me was Izzy Christensen announcing her retirement. Because I always think she's still a baby-faced, youngster. And so for her to say that, I did not see that one coming. Out of all of the ones, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, a lot would surprise him, but I think she's pursuing other avenues in football as well. She's really big in the commentary scene now and doing a lot of stuff in that aspect. So I think that once you feel like you can't contribute to the highest level, you're probably either clinging on for dear life or you make the smart decision to retire. And for her, she's got other things to focus on, so that's good for her to just move into that realm. And she's doing a good job in the commentary world, and people like her, so she's knowledgeable, and I like that transition for her. So I mean, a loss for Everton, but good for Izzy Christensen and moving on to new things.
And then Arsenal, and this is the big one, and I've spoken to a couple of Arsenal fans, and they are heartbroken at this one.
Why? I don't understand why. Why have they decided? I mean, is this a personal choice? Is this Raffaele's personal choice, or is this? I don't. Have Arsenal got a plan for a new centre back that we don't know about coming in? That's going to be as good as your Copa America winner. I don't know, because especially with Williamson being out. Yes, it's a strange one.
It has to have been her choice, right? It has to have been. There's no way Arsenal would have let her go.
No, and to Orlando.
I know, that's the one that's getting me, is that she's rumoured to be going to Orlando Pride.
I mean, there must be a personal reason there, because Lord knows Gotham needs a centre back. So why have we not got him for her? I don't know, but that's another conversation. I mean, we're doing well, so I can't really complain right now. But yeah, I mean, it's a really strange one to scratch your head at, but maybe we'll see in time what was the rationale.
And I think the thing for Arsenal is, I don't think they do need players, because obviously their injury list is ridiculous. But I think what they need in order to kick on is they need a change in, I don't know how they train, where they train, what it is, because to have 4 ACL injuries in one season is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I guess Arsenal are probably asking themselves the same questions about how their sports science team is working behind the scenes, what they're doing, and the loads, intensity, rest days, things like that, menstrual cycles. I mean, there's just so much talk about ACLs right now, and this is not a new thing. This is something that's been around for a very long time, particularly in female athletes. My day job is sports medicine, so I'm very well versed in this. But is it just a fluke? Is it just because we've seen there's a huge uptick in ACL injuries in female soccer players professionally? It's been very highlighted, and I think it's just not Arsenal. I think that there has to be some more done at FIFA level to really figure out, like, what are we doing with women's boots? Like, why are they not readily available for female athletes from the beginning, from when they're girls playing football? So that's just small things that need to be brought to the forefront for these sort of injuries to be less prevalent. Yeah, so Arsenal, going back to Arsenal, I think that they do need to strengthen their team, because 4 ACLs is not quick rehab at all. And I think that losing, obviously, Raffaele, they need to bring in somebody at centre-back who's equally as good as she is. The core of the squad is good. They need to get rid of the goalkeeper. We talked about this. Zinsberger is not good. Sorry to Arsenal fans, you might disagree with me, but I don't think she's a particularly good goalkeeper, a convincing goalkeeper. And you need that at the back to, inspire confidence in the rest of the team, especially the back line. So that would be somewhere I'd be looking if I was, Jonas, to strengthen, would be there. Maybe a forward. You don't have Miedemar. You brought in Jodie Taylor as sort of, a very, very short-term option. So
that for me was so bizarre. I was like,
they didn't have they didn't have many choices, though, did they? I mean, no. Who else could they bring in? And that they were just in dire straits. They needed something. So, although it was a weird one, it made sense at the time, I suppose. But she won't obviously be staying on, I don't think. So yeah, I think that Arsenal you can see it this season. They still, their squad players are good because the squad was able to keep it together when they needed them to. So I think that a good striker, a decent goalkeeper, and a decent centre back spine your team. That's what you need to strengthen.
Finally, the one that broke my heart. I've never come so close to crying when a player has left my club as when Kate Longhurst left West Ham. My heart.
That's a legend.
Broken. She is a legend, and she is Mrs. West Ham. She is a fan of the club. She's given 5 years from our WSL inception to now, and it makes me sad that she is no longer going to be playing next season.
Yeah, and that's really sad as a fan, because you build those rapport and relationships with people who are the heart of the club because they have the same heart that you do. She's West Ham through and through, and just like you are, that's tough to see a player like that leave, because you need those people at the club, and she deserves all the plaudits that she's got for sticking at West Ham as well, to be honest. So I'm assuming you didn't shed too many tears about Konchesky leaving, because that was the other one.
That was the other one. No. To be honest, I'd kept hearing a nasty rumour that he was staying, which for me was more painful. I saw a tweet under the announcement, which I think probably sums everything up, which was he gave a bit of a Phil Neville vibe, in the fact that it seems like he got the job because he's an ex-West Ham player.
And trying to get into the men's game, because the women's game is the stepping stone for the men's game, apparently.
And there's rumours he's not going to go to a high level club, but there's rumours he's going to Billericay, which is probably at his level, to be honest. He was a lovely bloke, he was genuinely lovely, but he had no ideas, none, nothing.
And that's why West Ham are where they are.
Yeah.
On another note, just back to Arsenal, Frida Maanum extension with Arsenal as well. That was announced today. Excellent. So that's real positive. She's great. Fantastic.
Yeah. She, again, has probably had one of the seasons of her life.
She needed to. She needed to, because she's just carrying the weight once the players got injured. It was even before they got injured, Maanum was fantastic, but she's really been, carrying a lot of weight for that team, which she can, clearly.
And we will leave it there for this week. Thank you so much, Amy, for stepping in and discussing all things WSL. I did quite like this Brit takeover. That is all from the Women's Soccer Show. Please check out our Patreon. We put things up there all the time. We are kicking off with What's on our World Cup special. And if you love listening to Amy, then check out our conversation that's coming up about the World Cup group with England. We're very excited to talk about that. But as ever, this is the Women's Soccer Show. And I have been Allie.
And I've been not Sara.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.